The humid Singaporean night pressed down on Min-seo, her heart hammering like a drum against her ribs. She wasn't crossing a militarized border, but she was fleeing a different kind of death, a life of desperate uncertainty. After a perilous journey that had somehow, miraculously, landed her on this unfamiliar island, fear and a sliver of hope warred within her, a terrifying tension that vibrated through her exhausted body. The dim glow of streetlights barely pierced the overgrown foliage surrounding the old, detached house she'd stumbled upon. It looked abandoned, a silent sentinel in the deep of the night. This quiet corner of Singapore, far from the gleaming city center, felt like the edge of the world. With nothing but the will to survive, she had come this far. Would she find freedom here? Or just a new kind of cage? Regret was a luxury she couldn't afford. She had already given up too much. Chapter 1, At Wit's End. Her journey had been a blur of fear and furtive movements. After escaping the suffocating control of her homeland, the sea voyage, orchestrated by shadowy brokers, had been a nightmare. Finally, deposited unceremoniously onto a quiet, unfamiliar shore in Singapore, she had run, driven by pure instinct. Days blurred into a haze of hunger and hiding. Now, weak from exposure and lack of food, Min-seo found herself before this dilapidated house. It seemed her only chance for a brief respite from the elements. Finding a loose window, she squeezed through, collapsing onto the dusty floor, every muscle screaming in protest. Perhaps she could rest, just for a while, before figuring out her next impossible step. This wasn't the glittering metropolis she glimpsed in forbidden media, but surely, it was freer than the life she'd fled. But the house was not abandoned. It was the quiet sanctuary of Mr. Lim, a 67-year-old widower who had lived alone for many years. His life was a pattern of quiet solitude, a resigned acceptance of loneliness. And so, fate brought them together, the desperate fugitive and the solitary old man. Chapter 2, Discovery and an Unspoken Connection. Early the next morning, heading to his small kitchen, Mr. Lim stopped dead. Curled in a heap in the corner of his living room was a young woman. His breath hitched. A burglar. Some vagrant. But then he saw her, her clothes torn, her face pale and etched with exhaustion, a soft whimper escaping her lips. His alarm softened into a startled concern. "Eh? Who are you? How did you get in here?" he asked, his voice gruff with surprise rather than anger. Min-seo flinched, her eyes flying open, wide with terror. She tried to speak, but only a choked sound emerged. She was shivering, disoriented. Mr. Lim's first instinct was to call the police, to shout at her to leave. But something in her desperate gaze, her sheer vulnerability, stayed his hand. Instead, he found himself turning to the kitchen, fetching a glass of water and then, an old habit, warming up some leftover rice porridge. He gently helped her sit up, coaxing her to take a few sips. As a little strength returned, Min-seo managed to stammer out in broken English mixed with Korean that she was from North Korea, that she had escaped and needed help. Mr. Lim couldn't grasp the entirety of her ordeal, but one thing was clear. He couldn't turn this young, broken woman away. "Eat something," he said gruffly. "You must be very tired." "Kamsahamnida." "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes a mixture of wariness and a dawning, fragile gratitude. This strange old man, though initially frightening, felt like the first flicker of warmth she'd encountered in what felt like an eternity. Chapter 3, Two Wounded Souls. Mr. Lim carried his own quiet sorrows. His wife had passed away years ago, and his children, grown and busy with their own lives overseas, rarely visited. He was accustomed to his isolated existence in this older house, set away from the bustling heartland estates. Now, this young woman had unexpectedly pierced his solitude. Yet, he didn't chase her out. Instead, he offered her a small spare room and over the next few days, patiently tried to understand her story. Though their languages were a barrier and their cultures worlds apart, a strange, unspoken bond began to form. Her deep-seated trauma and fear, and his long-held loneliness and quiet resignation, seemed to find a point of mutual understanding. Min-seo spent her days quietly in his home, slowly recovering her strength. Every time their eyes met, her heart fluttered with a mixture of apprehension and a strange sense of safety. She had heard stories of what happened to defectors, interrogations, uncertainty. She never imagined her first protector in a new land would be an elderly widower. "How long will you stay, Mr. Lim?" asked one day, not unkindly. Min-seo couldn't answer. She wanted to find a way to live, to be legitimate, but had no idea how. The thought of being discovered and deported terrified her. Mr. Lim, sensing her fear, admitted he had few connections himself. "This old house is quite out of the way," he said. "You can stay here for a while. Nobody will bother you. I don't think police come around here much, la?" He offered a small, wry smile. Chapter 4 From Weariness to Familiarity. As days turned into weeks, Min-seo's physical health improved. She began to help Mr. Lim around the house, cleaning, attempting to cook with the unfamiliar ingredients he bought from the wet market. They communicated in halting English, supplemented by gestures and the occasional help of a translation app on his old smartphone. Mr. Lim spoke of his younger days in a Singapore that was still developing, of hardships and simpler times. He listened, his heart aching, as Min-seo haltingly shared fragments of her life in North Korea, the oppressive reality she had fled. In turn, Min-seo found a strange comfort in Mr. Lim's presence, a mix of a father figure and an unexpected friend. Though usually guarded, she found herself listening as he spoke of his mundane routines, like sweeping the fallen leaves in his small garden each morning, or his clumsy attempts to play old tunes on a dusty accordion he kept. "My accordion playing is terrible, whore? Self-taught, so all out of tune one," he chuckled. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Min-seo laughed, a genuine, startled sound. The realization that she could still laugh surprised even herself. The tight knot of fear in her shoulders began to loosen, and a sliver of warmth touched her heart. Chapter 5 Opening Hearts. Nightmares still haunted Min-seo. The terror of her escape, the faces of those she left behind, would jolt her awake, screaming silently. Each time, Mr. Lim, hearing her distress, would appear with a comforting word. "It's okay, it's all past now. You're safe here," he'd say, his voice a low rumble in the dark. His simple, humane gestures a warm drink, a reassuring presence were a balm to her wounded spirit. As she grew stronger, Min-seo insisted on contributing more. She started cooking meals, adapting the North Korean dishes she knew with local ingredients. Though the flavors were different, Mr. Lim ate with genuine appreciation, often remarking that her simple, hearty food reminded him of the old campang days. This quiet exchange of care slowly dissolved the remaining barriers between them. It was no longer just a relationship of a helper and a recipient of aid, but one of mutual respect and a growing unspoken fondness. Chapter 6 Unspoken Vows. Shared days. Seasons in Singapore shifted subtly, from wetter to drier, and still, the two remained in the quiet house. Min-seo's anxiety about needing to face the Singaporean authorities and formalize her status remained, but she was paralyzed by uncertainty. "Stay a bit longer, Mr. Lim would advise, until you feel ready to leave." "Is that really okay?" she'd ask, still finding his kindness hard to believe. "Yeah, I'm an old man living alone. It's nice to have someone around. As long as no legal trouble, it's fine," he'd say with a gentle smile, stretching his back. A wave of emotion would wash over her. That such kindness existed in the world was a revelation. They fell into a comfortable rhythm, shared meals, quiet evenings listening to the radio, or simply sitting on the old sofa, looking out at the overgrown garden. When Mr. Lim went to the market, Min-seo would tidy the house, finding small ways to make it more comfortable. A familial warmth, unspoken but deeply felt, settled between them. Chapter 7 The Stirring of Love. She didn't recognize it as love at first. The thought was too improbable. The age difference, their vastly different origins, it seemed impossible. But the heart has its own reasons. One morning, unable to sleep, Min-seo sat by the window, gazing at the pre-dawn light. She caught her reflection and was surprised. The gaunt, haunted look was gone, replaced by a healthier sheen, a spark of life in her eyes. Questions about her future swirled. Just then, Mr. Lim came in from the garden, sweaty from some early morning work. "What are you looking at so seriously?" he asked. She just looked at him. The lines on his face spoke not of weariness, but of a life endured with quiet strength. There was a steadfastness about him that felt incredibly reassuring, deeply warm. "Uncle, are you okay? You work so hard." She handed him a cool glass of water and a towel. He looked flustered. "Wah, such good treatment I get nowadays." He chuckled, a little embarrassed. In that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them, a desire to protect, a yearning to rely on one another. That evening, a strange, sweet restlessness filled Min-seo, while Mr. Lim found himself looking at old photographs, a forgotten tenderness stirring in his chest. Chapter 8 Confession and Conflict. The unspoken feelings deepened, but neither dared to voice them. Mr. Lim felt he was too old. Min-seo felt her precarious situation and uncertain future made such emotions an indulgence. One sleepless night, Mr. Lim sat in the living room, bathed in moonlight. Min-seo quietly joined him. "Uncle," she began, her voice trembling, Are you really happy that I am here?" He hesitated for a long moment. "Yes, of course. Before you came, this house was too quiet. Now, I'm not so lonely anymore." Tears welled in Min-seo's eyes. They had, without realizing it, become each other's solace. That night, they hesitantly held hands. No words were needed, the warmth, the gentle tremor spoke volumes. But reality soon intruded. What would people say? The significant age gap. Her status as an undocumented North Korean, the potential for gossip and judgment loomed large. Don't we have to report to the government someday? Min-seo voiced her anxieties. Mr. Lim's face clouded with worry. We need to find a way for you to stay legally. I don't know much about these things, but I'll try to help. The deeper their bond, the more daunting the practical challenges seemed. Chapter 9, A Miraculous Conception. Amidst this turmoil, another, even more profound change began. Min-seo started experiencing morning sickness, dizziness, and nausea. At first, they dismissed it as stress, but as the symptoms persisted, a startling possibility emerged. Could it be? You're pregnant, Mr. Lim asked, his voice a mixture of shock and an unfamiliar flutter of excitement. A home pregnancy test confirmed their suspicions. To clear lines. Min-seo stared at them, tears streaming down her face, a storm of joy and terror erupting within her. What do we do? She sobbed. It was a blessing, yet a monumental complication. She had no official status, no access to proper health care, and they were not legally married. But Mr. Lim, his face set with a new determination, took her hand firmly. Don't be scared. I will take care of you. We will manage, somehow. His unwavering resolve was an anchor in her sea of emotions. Chapter 10, Confronting the World. The pregnancy made hiding impossible. Mr. Lim knew Min-seo needed proper medical care. He decided to contact an old friend, a doctor running a small clinic in the city. His friend, though initially stunned by Mr. Lim's story, agreed to help. The mother and baby's health come first, he said. We'll figure out the rest later. Min-seo received her first checkup under an assumed name. The baby was healthy and she, despite everything, was doing reasonably well. The doctor also promised to discreetly inquire about social services or organizations that might offer assistance to someone in her unique situation. Back home, Mr. Lim felt a complex mix of guilt for drawing Min-seo into this complicated life, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. He knew, more clearly than ever, that they needed each other. Chapter 11, The Weight of Whispers. Though Mr. Lim's house was somewhat secluded, it wasn't entirely isolated. Occasional trips to the nearby market or clinic with a visibly pregnant Min-seo started to draw curious glances and hushed whispers from neighbors and acquaintances. That old Mr. Lim? Got a young woman staying with him now. Heard she's pregnant, too. Wonder where she from? The judgmental curiosity was a constant, uncomfortable reminder of their unconventional situation. Min-seo grew increasingly self-conscious, trying to hide her growing belly, her outings becoming rarer. Mr. Lim tried to reassure her, but he felt the pressure. Chapter 12, Pillars of Strength. Despite the external pressures, they clung to their shared moments. Mr. Lim, learning from old wives' tales, would try to prepare nutritious soups for Min-seo. She, in turn, would tend to their small home, creating a sanctuary of peace. When waves of anxiety and prenatal blues washed over her, Mr. Lim would share stories of past hardships, of how Singapore itself had overcome immense challenges. Last time we also struggled, not enough to eat, he'd say. But we endured, and look at today. You also must endure for the baby. Min-seo would cradle her belly, dreaming of a future for her child. A future she was determined to fight for. She had crossed oceans of despair to get here. She would survive and find happiness. Chapter 13, The Crossroads. As the pregnancy progressed, the need for a formal solution became urgent. Hospital bills, the baby's citizenship, Min-seo's legal status, these were no longer distant worries. Mr. Lim's doctor friend advised that seeking official help, likely through the Immigration and Checkpoints Authority (ICA) or the Ministry of Social and Family Development (MSF), was inevitable if they wanted a secure future for the child. Min-seo was terrified, but knew it was necessary. Mr. Lim, too, agreed. We can't hide forever and have the baby like this. Better to face it now. Together, they made the difficult decision to approach the local community center to ask for guidance on how to contact the relevant authorities. The path ahead would be fraught with investigations and bureaucracy, but Mr. Lim squeezed her hand. No more hiding. Our child deserves to see the proper sunlight. His words solidified her resolve. Chapter 14, Opening the Door to the World. Their initial visit to a government office was met with caution and a barrage of questions. However, once Mr. Lim's doctor friend discreetly vouched for their situation, a slow, complicated process began. Officials were surprised, even skeptical, but Min-seo's genuine distress and Mr. Lim's steadfast support painted a compelling picture. The confirmation of her pregnancy and their de facto relationship added another layer of complexity. There was shock, some judgment, but also surprising pockets of empathy and offers of assistance, particularly from social workers. Min-seo didn't expect universal understanding, only a chance to give her child a safe start and build a simple life with Mr. Lim. Chapter 15, Courage in the Face of Adversity. The path was far from smooth. Min-seo battled lingering trauma from her past and the overwhelming strangeness of Singaporean society. The official process was draining, but Mr. Lim was her constant rock, offering gruff encouragement. "This bond we have, it wasn't easy to find, right?" he'd say. "Can someone like me really be happy?" she'd ask, her voice laced with doubt. "Of course, can. I also thought my life was finished. But look, now I feel alive again," he'd insist. Their mutual existence became their shared hope. Waking up together, planning for the baby, these simple acts were their lifeline. Chapter 16, The Moment of Arrival. Finally, the day arrived. Min-seo's labor pains began. Mr. Lim, flustered but determined, rushed her to the hospital, where his friend had made arrangements. During the agonizing hours that followed, Min-seo clung to Mr. Lim's hand, his presence a steady anchor in the storm of pain. Outside the delivery room, Mr. Lim paced, his heart a mixture of fear and profound responsibility. Then, the sound they had been waiting for, the clear, strong cry of a newborn. A wave of relief washed over everyone. Mr. Lim let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Inside, Min-seo, exhausted but radiant, held their tiny, perfect child. I did it. This is my baby," she wept, the miracle of life cradled in her arms. Mr. Lim, his eyes misty, gently touched the baby's cheek. "Welcome, little one. You came a long way," he whispered. A scene neither had ever dared to imagine had become their reality. Chapter 17, A New Family Unit. In the recovery room, a quiet joy enveloped them. "What should we name the baby?" Min-seo asked. Mr. Lim paused. "I think you should choose a name that you and the baby can start your new life with." Min-seo thought for a moment, then suggested a Korean name imbued with the meaning of freedom and hope. Mr. Lim nodded, deeply moved. "A good name. For the freedom you fought so hard for, and for the baby's bright future." Born into extraordinary circumstances, this child was nevertheless bound to them by an unbreakable cord of love and resilience. Borders, age, prejudice, none of it could diminish the strength of this little family. Chapter 18, Echoes of Hope, A Future Unfolding. Returning to the old house with their baby, life transformed. Sleepless nights, endless cycles of feeding and comforting, but also an abundance of laughter and tender moments. Life wasn't easy. Navigating official channels for support and formalizing Min-seo's status remained an ongoing challenge. The curious eyes of the small community were ever present, yet unexpected kindnesses also emerged. An elderly neighbor brought over home-cooked confinement meals. A young man from the street offered to help Mr. Lim with heavy chores. Slowly, people began to see Min-seo not as a suspicious outsider, but as a young mother who had endured much, and Mr. Lim as a man who had found companionship in his twilight years. Their unusual, yet genuine, bond began to earn a quiet respect. In their small home, they demonstrated that love transcends borders and generations. Theirs was a love built not on fleeting passion, but on a profound desire to protect, to heal past wounds, and to forge a future together. Time passed. The baby gurgled and cooed. Min-seo, though still navigating the complexities of Singaporean life, grew more confident. Mr. Lim, no longer just a solitary old man, embraced his role as a father figure and a devoted partner. The future remained uncertain, filled with challenges they would face day by day. But in the present moment, their small, unconventional family was rich with a profound happiness. In their little garden, as a baby's laughter mingled with the rustling leaves, Mr. Lim would sometimes play his old accordion, the tune still a little clumsy. Min-seo would hum along, her voice soft. All these sounds, these shared breaths, were proof of their life together. Min-seo often thought that if not for that desperate night when she had fled into the unknown, she would never have found these precious people. Their late-blooming love, fierce and tender, had birthed a new seed of hope. And so, defying all odds, a family was born, a testament that was sincerity and courage. Any barrier can be overcome. In a world often marked by division and fear, their story whispered a timeless truth. Humanity's deepest instinct is to seek warmth, to connect, and in that connection, to find the enduring miracle of love.